So this is the first in a series of videos showing you how to use Photoshop. We're going to try and go right from the beginning and keep it nice and gentle and build our way right the way up through the program. So to start with, if you open Photoshop CS3, this is what it should look like. If the workspace doesn't look like this, the way it looks on my screen right now, just click on your window menu, go into workspace and go to default workspace. That's going to reset all these palettes, which is what these tabs are known as, and all your menus on the top, the right, and all your tools on the left. Now you might find that your tools palette on the left is in two columns. It's split up quite nicely. I quite like mine in one. You can have it whichever way around you want, really. It doesn't actually make any difference. So, like I say, we're going to keep it simple. I'm going to show you how to bring an image in two different methods and show you a little bit around the workspace. So to start with, I've found an image right here. I'm going to go for this Photoshop cover which I've already opened, and I'm just going to copy the image. When you copy an image, it copies it to the clipboard. And the clipboard is like a digital bank of information, really. If I look at the image dimensions in Google Images, it says it's 500 by 500, which is the pixel size. Now, if I go to File, New in Photoshop, and look for the preset of the clipboard, it will automatically know how big that image is. So right now it's going to make me a canvas exactly how big I want it to be. I can give that canvas a name, so image 1 isn't a bad idea. I can choose what colour I want the background to be. Do I want it white, transparent, or background colour? Now we'll get to the background colour a little bit later on, but keep it either white or transparent for now. You can always change it as we go along. So the canvas is set up how I want it to, which when I go to File, New, it's working on the canvas for me. I click OK, and it loads up a canvas that looks like this. Now your screen might not have all these measurements around the top and the left. If you want those there, just click in your View menu and go down to Rulers. I find them quite useful from time to time, and again, we'll move on to reasoning why that's there a little bit later on. Now you might find that the image is not full screen, it might look like that. If it does, just click full screen image. If you want it to be smaller, click the two little boxes and then you can drag the canvas out to whatever size you want. I quite like mine full screen, so we'll keep it there. So I've got a canvas, and I want to edit and paste that image off the clipboard into my canvas. So now we can have a little look around if we've got something to look at. On the left hand side down this column I've got all my tools, which is what we're going to be working through in these tutorials. Across the top we've got some menus. Just underneath the menu we have like a sub menu for each tool. Whenever you click a tool you get different options coming up on that bar, which we're going to go through for each tool. We're going to look at what options it has. For today, for this lesson, we're just going to look at where the workspace is and what it does. So again, we've got a workspace menu across the top where we can go back to default workspace or look at different settings that's going on there. If we get to the right, we've got sub-menus. Those do different things with different tools, and again, we're going to get to them as and when we need to. This section of palettes on the right, where we've got the three sets of 3 palettes, we're going to have a quick look at these. The histogram gives us colour information on the image. The info tells us where we are in that image based on pixel measurements. Now, quite advanced, you probably don't really need that just yet, but the navigator is an absolutely brilliant tool. This is our zoom control. Over in our tool palette on the left, we can get a magnifying glass, and we can click in, or we can look at the top with those new options and find the zoom out and click out, but that's quite time consuming. There's no real need to do that. We have the navigator, this slider bar, we can pull across to the right and it'll zoom in, and then we can use the little hand inside that little preview window to move the red box around. We can click the little triangles, which will set to generally every 100% zoom in and out. So when we're working with images, we always want to look back at it at 100%, but we might want to work at like 400 or 500% when we're doing a bit of image editing. It's entirely up to you. Now this red window that we're looking at on the right hand side of the navigator is showing us everything that we can see on this screen. It's really useful if you want to look at the Adobe logo, which is down in the bottom right corner. Just drag that box over there. You want to look up at the top, drag the box up there. Really nice and simple, and as you zoom out, it zooms out around that point, and when you get to 100% it should fill the screen. Because that red box is all the way around this image, we know that we can see all of the image. Really nice and simple. Look down the palette, we've got the colour palette. We can set colour options, what makes up those colours. We can look at a whole swatch of colours, import new swatches if we want. We can work on styles, which are like gradients and patterns, but we'll get to them in due course. Down at the bottom, this is the most important one by far. This is your layers menu. Now we don't need to really understand layers right this very second, but it's useful to know that it's there. If you want to turn a layer off, you you can click the little eye that's by it, and it'll turn it off. If you want to turn it on, you click it so that the eye comes on. Really nice and simple. Now, layer ordering, we're going to get to a little bit later on and understand how and why the layers work. But knowing that this is your layers menu where you can manipulate your layers, you can create new layers, you can put old layers in the bin, you can create groups to put your layers into, you can create adjustment layers, layer masks, we can add effects to layers like drop shadows, inner shadows, so on and so forth. We can link layers together, so if we resize a layer, it'll resize the whole group of them that we've linked together. And again, we're going to get to all those in due course, there's no rush to get there. So that's the main layer of the workspace, and that's also one way of importing an image. There's loads of ways you can import images. You'll find with Photoshop there's 3 or 4 ways to do most things. Another quite useful way is if you save the image. So find your image, right click, save image as, and then go and choose a location for it. So I've already got mine set up. Let's replace it just so we can see what happens. It'll scan it for viruses if you've got a virus checker, and then it'll download quite quick because it's quite a small image. But then go to File and then Open, because I want to open an image, and then I want to find that folder where I put the image in, which for me is lesson 1. Find the image, it'll load the image up. And the only difference between this one and the other one is there's only one layer, and that's because when I created this canvas, the first one that I did, when I set up the canvas, it automatically puts a layer in for you. Even if that's a transparent layer, you still have a background layer. And then I pasted my layer in, my image in that I copied to the clipboard, I pasted that on top, so it puts it on the second layer. When I load an image up, look down in the layers tab, we've only got one layer because that layer is the background. So again, we're going to build on this in due time, there's no rush. That's the end of lesson 1. We've had a little look around the workspace. If you want, take a bit of time to look through the menus up at the top, see exactly what's in them, familiarise yourself with them. They are going to be quite useful to you as we go along. We know what the navigator does, this is quite critical, zoom controls, navigating your way around an image with it, and we know where the layers menu is. So next tutorial we're going to look at some of the selection tools, in particular the rectangular and elliptical selection masks. We might have a look at the single row and single column marquee tool. I might leave that out to be honest. So those are all there. One last thing to tell you, in the tools palette on the left hand side, or wherever you may have located it to, any menu that's got a little icon that's got a little triangle in the corner, if you right click it'll open up a sub menu. If you're too lazy to get to your right click, if you just left click and hold, it will open up that sub menu. Again, have a look through those brushes if you want, and different things that are down there, and familiarise yourself with what's where everything's hiding. It's the most useful thing to do. That's the end of lesson 1 then.